Hey, it's your financial expert here, John, and welcome to this soft-spoken financial ASMR. So, the question of today's video is how to get rich in 2023. It's actually a good question, and I think we might change it to 2024 actually, and to really any year, because this, what I'm about to tell you right now, is going to work not only 5 years from now, but 10, 30, 50 years from now. So listen carefully, okay? What should you start with in order to get wealthy? That's the question many people ask me about. So, before we start off, I would recommend you to have a plan. I know it sounds repetitive. Everyone just keeps on telling you should make a financial plan, and you should have a plan, and then you should stick to the plan. You should stick to your financial routines, and it's easy as it gets. It's just simply true. So what I advise you to start off is, if you are in a debt, I know many people believe me, many people think that if they are in debt, they can actually just invest this money in other actives, and they can actually gain more money than they are paying in debt, and they call it healthy debt. And there is actually quite lucrative way of thinking about it, as far as real estates are concerned, for instance. Because if you put a 10%, 20% down on a mortgage, let's say it's a 3-unit building where you actually can live, and at the same time the 2 units are free, so you can actually rent them out, and it makes you cash flow, and it pays for the mortgage, plus it gives some additional money into your pocket. That's fine, but it's definitely not safe, and it's definitely not guaranteed. So that's to start off. So if you have any debt, because we are actually going to be looking today not on real estate investing, but rather on passive stock investing, okay? Not only on stock, but just passive investments that you don't really have to care about. You know, in the end, when you own a real estate, there is a lot of things that you have to do. So in today's video, we're going to be trying to focus on passive investing, okay? So let's say you are out of debt, okay? That's numero uno. That's number one, what you should actually do. And after you've done with that, then we can actually try and start investing. The first thing that I would recommend you to do is as following. Right now, in today's situation, we've seen a lot of raises in interest rates as far as savings accounts are concerned. And as many of you know, this is one of the safest options that there is to gain interest on a capital. First, I would like to tell you my strategy, and that way you can maybe make your own opinion. I would say, with interest rates that seem to be quite high on the savings accounts, I've came to a decision where from all the money that I have from work, I divide it 80 and 20%, okay? Meaning that 80% goes always 80% just goes to the savings account, where I have something a little below 6% per annum. It's, I think 5.8 it is after tax. So 5.8% after tax I get per year, paid monthly on my savings account. That's quite a safe option to grow capital, and at the same time you have a cash at hand. Since I am awaiting for some good real estate buy in the future, and I believe that in the following years it's actually going to fall down quite a bit. I mean, the real estate prices. That's why I keep 80% at cash sitting on the savings account. And in the end, it's not that bad. And when I get paid interest, I just reinvest it, and I just let it there and let it snowball itself. And the other 20%, what I have, I invest in mostly passive index funds, ETFs. And so lately I was looking a lot at the index that all of you already know, S&P 500 accumulating, which means that if S&P 500, which is an index that actually tracks 500 biggest companies with biggest capital, how is it called? With the highest capital cap, yeah. So number one company is, for instance, Apple, then I think Microsoft, and so on, Amazon, and companies like that, Google. And I invest in this passive index fund, ETF, S&P 500. And when it pays me dividend, because it actually also owns some dividend paying stocks. Dividend is basically a share of earnings that the company is willing to pay to their investors, which means that if you own a company and it pays you 1% dividend yield, which is quite low, but let's say with the S&P 500, which at least with my ticker symbol CSPX, pays me right about 1.8% dividend per annum, meaning that if I have invested $100, it pays me $1.8 a year, which is not a lot, but it pays quarterly, and when it pays out, it actually doesn't even show up on my account, but it just reinvests itself in the stock. So in the index fund, in the S&P 500, it just invests in itself, basically. But what's more important is that it has, for the last 20 years, if you actually try to find any 20-year period, it always had the minimum of 10% gains, capital gains. So in 20 years horizon, you never actually lost money, but you always gained 10% per annum, meaning that in 20 years you gain more or less the triple money, okay, of what you invested in the very start. And you actually get also a lot more because of the compound interest. If you reinvest the stock, and if you also keep on investing in the stock, you gain much more by reinvesting dividends. So that's to start up. So what I would actually recommend you is put 80% to high interest rate savings account, save some cash. Of course, after dividing the money that you have to use for your expenses, of course, okay? If you have the money that you are ready to invest, let's say 50% or 40%, that would be great, at least 40%. But in most cases, I can imagine it would be something more about 10 to 20% of your money that you earn. You pay something, let's say, this 80%, so you're left over with 20%, and out of those 20% goes into those ETFs, passive ETFs such as S&P 500 or Total World Index Fund, All World Index Fund, and the rest 80% just put it on a savings account with high interest yield. Okay, and out of 20% I would put actually 10% into S&P 500, 5% into All World ETF, and the rest 5% I would actually be waiting and be choosing individual stocks. If you are a dividend fan, you can use some dividend stocks such as Realty Income, which is quite on sale right now, selling for less than $50 per share. Or let's say some dividend aristocrats, of course, such as Altria, Coca-Cola, they are also quite on sale right now. And Coca-Cola has also this growth potential which Altria lacks. Of course, you can just pick some individual stocks. It doesn't have to be dividend stock, it could be also growth stock. But this you should buy, and you should focus, and you should always do intrinsic value. You should always calculate the intrinsic value of the stock. Put at least 10 or 20% margin of safety before buying it. Okay, so you should put in those 5% to individual stocks, but choosing really carefully, because it's not fun. And like this, if you continue and if you stick to your expenses, if you just won't go out partying every single day, and if you actually stick to your financial routines, it doesn't matter how much money you make. Even if you'd be making $2,000, even if you'd be investing, even if those 20% of your money would be $500, okay, $500. If you got $500 and if you put 80%, so let's say 80% is $400, $400 if you put it on a high yield savings account, and the rest $50 into S&P 500, $25 total world, and the rest $25 you split between stocks. It would be great if you actually be able to buy fractional shares, which is basically that you don't need to have the whole capital to buy one share, but you can buy half of a share or one quarter of the share. And if you just put the rest into the individual shares and into the whole world ETF, VTI, let's say, and if you do it every single month and you invest those $100 and the rest $400 left on the savings account every single month, if you do that, trust me, but the millions, they're gonna come to you alone. You will not have to lift a single finger. You just stick to this plan and it's gonna work out. You can actually, in the passive, in the ETFs, into S&P 500 and in all world ETF, you can invest on a monthly or weekly basis, and while picking the individual stocks, once 2 to 3 months, just trying to wait for it to go down and then you buy. So, but with the ETFs, you should actually be buying frequently. You should be buying the market frequently, and that way in 10-20 years you will be in plus. Trust me on that. And the interest that goes from your savings account, just keep reinvesting on the savings account. Just keep accumulating it. That way you'll build some wealth. And there is also one more important thing to include in this video. You should actually consider canceling some memberships such as Netflix, or Disney Plus memberships. In the end, it's not really that important, right? I know movies and series are great, but there is one more membership site that I would actually recommend you buying, and that's my Buy Me Coffee page. Link is in the description. That's the only healthy membership site where you actually gain some good knowledge, and that actually helps you fall asleep every night. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and be cautious.